As we all know, the Los Angeles Lakers had a pretty rough season this year. And so today we're going to talk about what would have happened if the Lakers decided to stick with Lavar Ball's plan and get the Ball brothers on the same team. Now, for this plan, it's obviously all hypothetical, and the way it would be done would Lonzo would be drafted, the Anthony Davis trade would have never happened, the fourth overall pick that the Lakers had in the 2019 NBA draft would not have been traded to New Orleans. It would have been traded down to have two first round picks in the 2020 NBA draft, and the Lakers would then probably have one pick in the lottery and one pick in the late lottery, being like in the 20s. I'd say their pick would be, assuming they were to make the playoffs in 2020 and not win the championship because they don't have Anthony Davis, they would then be able to trade up and draft Lavar Ball. And another scenario we're going to mention is if the Lakers are bad or maybe they got two first round picks for the fourth overall pick trade and were able to get LaMelo Ball and Onyeka Okongwu, another guy who played with the Ball brothers at Chino Hills. So first, let's talk about if they just have the three Ball brothers and the rest of that Lakers team that we all know. This team would still have Brandon Ingram, it would still have Kyle Kuzma, and it would still have LeBron James. So basically, you got the Ball brothers, LeBron James, and a bunch of other good players on your roster. And if you look at the 2018-2019 Los Angeles Lakers roster, there's a lot of guys that would be helpful to a team trying to make a playoff run. Like I said, you got Kuzma and Ingram not being traded to New Orleans. You've got Josh Hart still on the team. He would not have been traded to New Orleans. And you've got guys like Alex Caruso and KCP who were Caruso left in free agency, and KCP was traded in the Russell Westbrook deal. These guys will still be here. Reggie Bullock's another player that's been really good for the Mavericks so far this postseason. These guys would still be on the team, and the team would just be better off with these players that can help them out, help them win games, and definitely help them in the playoffs because they're very good at what they do. A guy like Reggie Bullock, I would say, is very similar to what LiAngelo Ball would do. Just a shooter, plays defense, similar size, 6'7". I believe Jello is 6'6". So it would just be, very similar type of players, and it'd work out well with those two guys. Like Jello obviously wouldn't be good right away. We still see him in the G League, but him just being on the roster, Reggie Bullock helped him out with his role. Brandon Ingram would continue to shine and be a star he's been in New Orleans, but alongside LeBron and Lonzo. And as we all know, LaMelo would continue to be the star that he's been so far in his young NBA career. So the Lakers' potential lineup with the Ball brothers and no additional trades and no Onyeka Okongwu would look like Lonzo Ball at point, LaMelo Ball at shooting guard, Brandon Ingram at small forward, LeBron as your power forward, and most likely Kyle Kuzma as your center. This would work well with a lot of small ball lineups that we see nowadays. Now, this team would probably be a good playoff contender, and they'd get a lot of hype, but I don't think they're a championship caliber team yet, and I still wouldn't, even this season, I think they'd be a little bit short. We don't know how injured some of the guys would be. Like maybe Lonzo doesn't get injured. I'm not going to take injuries. I'm just going to take injuries out of it. I think this would a team that would compete. I think it can compete with the Warriors, could compete with Phoenix. I don't think it'd beat anybody. I don't think it's winning a championship, but I think it'd get out of the first round, and I definitely think it'd be a better season than what the Lakers did this season. But obviously, injuries are definitely a factor. Now, if you look at this roster, the big thing that's missing is a center, and a center that would come in would be Onyeka Okongwu, the former center for Chino Hills when they all played together. And I think it'd be interesting if they could go get him. He was a sixth overall pick. He hasn't really done much with Atlanta. They have Clint Capella. He only played about 12 minutes a game in his rookie season, about 20 minutes per game in his second year, which was this year. But he's definitely still behind. Clint Capella averaged 8.2 points per game and about 6 rebounds per game. So decent numbers. Maybe he could have been traded for, a draft pick, first round draft pick, maybe two picks that the Lakers didn't use in the Anthony Davis trade to go get him, and maybe he could be a factor. But this team is definitely set up well for the future compared to what the Lakers are now, and is definitely a team that you have to look out for moving forward if you're a team in the Western Conference. They have young talent, and they have a lot of it. LiAngelo Ball would most likely be a guy coming off the bench. Like I said, that Reggie Bullock role that we see him play in the Dallas Mavericks. Just a shooter coming in, take some shots. You got Brandon Ingram, so he's definitely not going to start over Brandon Ingram because Brandon Ingram's been an absolute bucket for the Pelicans so far. And I just think that team would be really good. Now, if we want to get into more hypothetical trades that they could make, like I said, getting Onyeka Okongwu, but if they were to move Kyle Kuzma or Brandon Ingram, two guys that have value and maybe don't fit in as well as LaVar Ball would like into the play style of the Ball brothers. I would say mainly Brandon Ingram just because he's got more value, and I think Kyle Kuzma kind of fits in their style. They like to go up and down fast, and Kyle Kuzma can definitely do that. He's an athletic guy that can run the floor. But Brandon Ingram, not so much. He's athletic and can definitely run the floor, but he's more of a half court offensive type of guy. He wants to slow it down, get into his spots, pick and rolls, get some middies up. That's not really what they're looking to do. They're looking to push the floor, get a quick shot off in transition three, or get to the basket with a LaMelo layup. Or half court offense, they're taking threes. They're moving the ball around, they're finding open shots, and they're taking threes. They're not a lot of dribbling. We know LaMelo to be a big dribbler, Lonzo to be a really good ball handler, but not a lot of dribbling happens, not a lot of isolations, a lot of ball movement, a lot of stuff like that. And that's why I enjoyed watching them play in high school and wish they could have played together in the NBA just because it was a good team offense. Although we all know the three guys as the stars, everybody was getting their shots, and it wasn't as good as Lonzo was. He wasn't dominating the offense, and the same thing with LaMelo. They weren't dominating the offense. The ball was being moved around. And even LaMelo's 72-point game or 92-point game that we all know, a lot of passes happened to him. He got a lot of points off of assists. Some of it was cherry picking, but it wasn't just isolation scoring points as we see a lot of high school kids do nowadays. So if they were to make potential trades, one trade I would look to do is now if we're going to move Langelo Ball in the starting lineup because we're getting rid of Brandon Ingram to set up a play style of uh, LaMelo, Lonzo, and LiAngelo as your three smaller players. You could have LeBron at the power forward still, kind of just anchoring everything as one of the greatest players of all time, if not the greatest there at the four. You would trade Brandon Ingram definitely to get a center. If don't trade him in an Onyeka trade, maybe you trade him to get a guy like Mitchell Robinson, a good defender, because you don't need a shooter because you have your shooters right there in those guys, but you have a good defender, someone to protect the paint. These guys don't have to. Someone to grab rebounds, just so these don't have to. Grab a rebound, give it to Lonzo, let him throw an outlet pass. And I think that'd be a really good offense. Also, I would have liked to see Lonzo and Russell Westbrook play together if maybe that trade was still a thing that happened in no Anthony Davis trade. Just because they are both two good rebounding guards that like to push the pace, I think it'd be fun. I don't think it'd work well, but I think it'd be fun to watch them play together. So that's some things that the Lakers could have done if they kept it together. Moves I would have made was I probably would have traded Brandon Ingram just because I don't see the fit with what you're trying to do with the Geno Hills type of offense. And obviously, you're not going to trade LeBron, and LeBron would be the guy if it doesn't work out. Let him do like every now and then he's going to do an ISO possession and truck up his three with his little move that he does, that type of thing. And I think it'd work well together because we see how good LeBron makes everybody around him. Lonzo Ball does the same thing. So you got two facilitators. LaMelo Ball does kind of the same thing. You got your shooters. Lonzo can catch and shoot threes. LiAngelo can. LaMelo can as well. And then you got isolation offense in LaMelo and LeBron to make things work. And you really just need a good center to kind of tie it all together. And then you bring in some bench pieces to give guys minutes like the Lakers weren't able to do this season. And I think it'd be a team that's ready to compete for a championship this year. Maybe not this year or the next year. Definitely wouldn't have won a championship by now that the Lakers have, but they would have no concerns about their future. They would be one of the best teams of the future.